Most people believe they're in control of their lives, but are they? Every decision you make is influenced by fear, by habit, by culture, by the people around you. You think you chose freely, but did you? Or did you just follow the script someone else handed you? Here's the truth. If you don't take control of your decisions, someone else will. The question isn't, are you making choices? The question is, who is making them for you? Most people walk through life under the illusion that they are making choices. They believe that when they pick a career, choose a partner, or decide how to respond in a moment of conflict, it's their free will at play. But here's the hard truth. Much of what you think is a decision is nothing more than a reaction, a reflex triggered by habit, fear, or conditioning you haven't even questioned. You're not steering the ship, you're just drifting with the current someone else set for you long ago. Think about it. How often have you said yes to something you didn't actually want just to avoid conflict? How often have you stayed silent because speaking up felt uncomfortable? That wasn't a decision, that was autopilot. It was the path of least resistance. And autopilot is the enemy of control, because when you're on autopilot, you're not living, you're existing. The illusion of choice is dangerous because it feels comfortable. You think you're safe because you chose to stay in a job you hate, a relationship that drains you, or a lifestyle that suffocates your potential. But if you trace those decisions back to their root, you'll see they weren't decisions at all. They were survival tactics, coping mechanisms, or social scripts handed to you by your upbringing, your culture, or the people who once told you who you had to be. You didn't decide, you complied. Michael, talk about authenticity, a slicker's. Here's the tactical reality. A real decision requires awareness. It demands that you step back and ask, why am I doing this? Who benefits from this choice? Is this aligned with the life I say I want? Most people never do that. They run their lives like outdated software, programs installed in childhood, reinforced by peers, validated by society. You think you're choosing, but in truth, you're just running code someone else wrote. Let me give you an example. A woman stays in a toxic relationship because leaving feels too hard. She tells herself she's choosing stability, but what really happened? She reacted to fear, fear of being alone, fear of judgment, fear of change. That's not a choice, that's a chain. Another example, you don't pursue a promotion because you convince yourself you're not ready. Was that wisdom or was that conditioning? Maybe someone told you early on that you weren't capable, and now every time you step toward growth, you retreat. Not because you decided, but because you were programmed to doubt yourself. The illusion of choice thrives on comfort zones. Your brain loves routine. It wants the path that burns the least energy, so it pushes you toward familiarity, even if familiarity is toxic, even if it suffocates you. And if you don't catch yourself, you'll confuse that pull for a decision. You'll say, this is just who I am, when in reality, it's just who you've been told to be. So how do you break this illusion? First, by catching yourself in the moment. Anytime you feel yourself drifting into automatic behavior, saying yes without thinking, shutting down in conflict, numbing out instead of acting, pause. Ask, am I choosing this or am I avoiding something? That question alone can cut through autopilot and expose whether you're truly deciding or just reacting. Second, pay attention to patterns. If your life feels like it's looping, same arguments, same jobs, same disappointments, chances are you're not making decisions, you're repeating reactions. Real decisions break cycles, reactions reinforce them. Third, test your choices against your values. Write them down if you have to. If freedom is a value, ask, does this choice make me freer or less free? If growth is a value, ask, does this move expand me or shrink me? If respect is a value, ask, does this path build respect for myself or erode it? If your choices don't line up with your values, then they're not real choices. They're compromises you've been tricked into calling decisions. And finally, understand this. A decision always has a cost. If your choice doesn't scare you a little, stretch you a little, demand something from you, it's probably not a decision. It's a default. Decisions demand energy. They require courage. They force you to step into the unknown. Reactions, on the other hand, keep you stuck exactly where you are. That's why most people stay in the illusion. It's easier to react than to decide. It's easier to tell yourself the story that you're choosing stability than to face the truth that you're surrendering your power. So the next time you're faced with a fork in the road, don't just ask, "What should I do?" Ask, "Who is really making this choice? Me, fear, or conditioning?" If the answer isn't you, then it's not your decision. And if it's not your decision, then it's not your life. The illusion of choice is everywhere, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. And once you start questioning it, you begin to reclaim your power. You start moving with intention instead of inertia. You stop drifting and you start driving. And that shift right there is where control begins. Fear is the quiet dictator of human behavior. It doesn't scream, it whispers. It doesn't shove you, it gently tugs you back, convincing you that safe is smart and comfortable is wise. But here's the tactical truth. Fear isn't protecting you. Fear is controlling you. And if you don't confront it, fear will become the invisible hand that makes your decisions for you, while you keep lying to yourself that you're the one in charge. Look at the choices you've made in your life. How many of them were born from courage and how many were born from fear? Staying in a job you despise, was that ambition or fear of starting over? Keeping your voice down in the room, was that strategy or fear of rejection? Pretending you're fine when you're breaking inside, was that resilience or fear of being seen as weak? Fear camouflages itself as logic, as responsibility, as maturity, but peel back the layers and you'll see fear everywhere, running the show, pulling the strings, keeping you in a cage you've decorated to look like home. Here's how fear works. It convinces you that safety is success. It tells you that avoiding pain is smarter than pursuing growth. It plants worst-case scenarios in your head until the risk feels deadly, even when it's not. That's why people don't chase opportunities, why they don't walk away from toxic people, why they settle for good enough instead of demanding better. Fear is the most persuasive liar you will ever meet, and it speaks your language. It knows exactly how to manipulate you because it has lived inside you since childhood. And here's the brutal reality. Fear is patient. It doesn't need to scream to control you. It just has to whisper, "What if you fail? What if you're not enough? What if you lose everything?" And the moment you listen, the moment you shrink back, fear wins. You think you're choosing safety, but you're not. You're handing over the keys to your life. Now let's get tactical. How do you expose fear's control? Start by tracking your no's. Every time you say no to something, ask yourself, is this a no based on my values or a no based on fear? For example, if you turn down a public speaking opportunity because it clashes with your mission, that's alignment. But if you turn it down because you're terrified of judgment, that's fear. And if you let fear make that call for you, it won't just be one speech you skip. It'll be the promotion, the leadership role, the business idea, the love of your life. Fear steals one opportunity at a time until there's nothing left but regret. The second way fear manipulates you is through comfort zones. Fear is a master negotiator. It convinces you that staying comfortable is winning. Don't speak up. It's safer. Don't try. It's easier. Don't leave. At least you know what to expect. Fear will sell you comfort like it's security, when in reality it's a prison cell. And the longer you stay, the smaller your world becomes. But here's what fear doesn't want you to know. Courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage is doing the thing anyway. The people you admire, the leaders, the bold women who stand in their power, they feel fear too. The difference is, they don't obey it. They don't let it sit at the head of the table. They feel the fear, acknowledge it, and move forward regardless. That's real control. Now, I'm not telling you to be reckless. Tactical strength means knowing the difference between fear that protects and fear that paralyzes. If you're walking into traffic, fear is wisdom. But if you're avoiding applying for a position because you might hear no, that's paralysis. If you're silencing your truth because someone might not like it, That's fear shrinking your voice. You need to start auditing which fear is real danger and which fear is imaginary prison. 90% of the time, it's the latter. Here's the drill. Every time fear whispers, "What if you fail?" you respond, "What if I succeed?" Every time fear says, "It's safer to stay," you counter with, "It's stronger to go." You don't negotiate with fear, you reframe it. Because the moment you expose fear's lie, its power starts to dissolve. But let's get even more practical. Write down 3 decisions in your life you've been putting off. Maybe it's walking away from a toxic friendship. Maybe it's starting that business. Maybe it's setting a boundary with someone who's been crossing lines for years. Then ask yourself one question. If I wasn't afraid, what would I choose? The answer you write down, that's your real decision. That's who you are without the strings. And the longer you wait to act on it, the longer fear continues to pull them. Understand this, fear doesn't just steal your present, it hijacks your future. Every time you obey fear, you reinforce its power. You teach your brain that fear is the boss, and the next time, it'll be even harder to resist. But every time you confront fear, even in small ways, even with trembling hands, you weaken its hold. You start to retrain your mind to follow courage instead of comfort. That's how you break free. Fear is not your protector, it is not your advisor, it is not your friend. Fear is a parasite that feeds on your hesitation, your doubt, your silence. And the only way to kill it is to starve it of your obedience. So the next time you're standing at the edge of a decision and fear shows up dressed as logic, ask yourself this: am I choosing growth or am I letting fear choose for me? Because if fear is the one making your decisions, then it's not your life you're living, it's fear's. Let's get brutally honest. A lot of the decisions you think are yours are nothing more than manipulations you've absorbed from the world around you. People, culture, media, they all have an agenda, and if you don't know how to spot it, you'll spend your life living by someone else's plan instead of your own. Manipulation doesn't always look obvious. It doesn't always feel like someone twisting your arm. Most of the time, it feels natural, normal, even harmless. That's what makes it so dangerous. It comes in the form of good advice from people who want to keep you small. It shows up as cultural expectations, what you're supposed to look like, sound like, believe, or achieve by a certain age. It's in the shows you binge, the ads you scroll past, the influencers you follow. Every day you are being programmed. The question is, are you aware enough to resist it? Let's start with people. Toxic people manipulate through guilt, pressure, and obligation. They say things like, "After everything I've done for you," or "If you really cared, you would." That's not love, that's control. And the second you let someone else's emotional pressure dictate your choices, you are no longer in control of your life. They are. Manipulators thrive on your compliance. They don't have to physically force you, they just twist your emotions until you act the way they want. And you walk away thinking you chose, when in reality you were coerced. Now let's talk about society. From the time you were a child, you've been told what a good woman looks like, what a successful adult is supposed to do, and what milestones you should hit to be considered valuable. Married by a certain age, kids by another, the right body, the right job, the right image. But who wrote those rules? Who decided that was the standard? And why are you following it without ever questioning if it's even what you want? That's manipulation at scale. Entire industries are built on convincing you you're not enough, so that you'll buy, chase, and settle. And don't underestimate the media. Every ad is designed to poke at your insecurities. You're not thin enough, so buy this. You're not young enough, so inject that. You're not happy enough, so consume this. Do you think it's an accident? Billions are spent every year to engineer your desires. If you're not actively questioning what you see, you're absorbing it, and what you absorb becomes what you think you want, until you can't tell the difference between your real needs and their manufactured ones. Here's the tactical danger. Manipulation works best when you're unaware. If you're tired, distracted, stressed, or insecure, you're easy prey. You'll go along with what people say, you'll follow trends without thinking, you'll choose based on pressure instead of purpose. That's why awareness is your weapon. You can't fight manipulation if you don't even realize it's happening. So how do you take back control? Start by auditing the voices in your life. Who gets a say in your decisions? Do they have your best interests at heart, or do they benefit when you stay small, silent, or dependent? Pay attention to how you feel after being around someone. Do you feel empowered or drained and doubting yourself? That's your first clue. Manipulators leave you weaker. Empowering people leave you stronger. Second, question cultural scripts. Just because everyone else is doing it doesn't mean it's right for you. Do you want the house, the marriage, the career, or do you just feel like you're supposed to? Real strength is having the guts to write your own script, even when it doesn't match the one handed to you. If your decisions look like everyone else's, chances are they're not decisions at all. They're compliance. Third, control your inputs. What you consume, you become. If your feed is full of people flaunting fake perfection, guess what? You'll start chasing their version of success instead of defining your own. If the news is feeding you fear 24/7, you'll start making safe choices that aren't even yours. Limit your exposure, curate your environment, because whether you like it or not, what you allow in will eventually influence what comes out. And finally, recognize the patterns of manipulation. Guilt tripping, fear-mongering, gaslighting, pressure to rush decisions, or shaming you for saying no. When you see these tactics, pause. That pause is your shield. Because manipulation thrives on speed. The faster they can get you to react, the easier you are to control. Slow it down, step back, ask yourself, whose decision is this? Mine or theirs? Here's the truth. People who know how to manipulate are not always evil. Sometimes they're just repeating what worked for them. But whether it's intentional or not, you are responsible for guarding your choices. Because if you don't, you'll live your entire life making decisions that never belong to you. And there's one more piece you need to hear. Manipulators hate boundaries. The moment you start questioning them, the moment you stop obeying without hesitation, they panic. They get louder, guiltier, angrier, because they know their control is slipping. And that's when you know you're regaining power. Don't let their reaction scare you back into submission. Their discomfort is proof you're taking your life back. So ask yourself this: how much of your life is really yours? Your career, your relationships, your lifestyle? Did you truly choose them, or were they chosen for you? Because here's the tactical reality. The life you want will only happen when you make decisions based on your values, not someone else's agenda. And until you take back control from manipulators, people, society, media, you will always be a pawn in someone else's game. The manipulation factor is real, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. And once you stop letting others dictate your decisions, you start living on your terms. That's not just freedom, that's power. Here's the bottom line. If you don't take control of your decisions, someone else will. Fear will, manipulators will, culture will. And if you keep living on autopilot, life will pass you by while you convince yourself you're choosing. Taking back control is not a theory, it's a discipline. It's a set of tactical steps you practice every single day until your mind belongs to you and no one else. So let's get tactical. The first step is pausing before reacting. Most people don't make decisions, they react. Someone criticizes them, they snap back. Someone pressures them, they cave in. Something feels scary, they retreat. That's not control, that's reflex. If you want to reclaim your power, you have to break the reflex. The pause is your weapon. Even 5 seconds of silence can change everything. 5 seconds to breathe, observe, and ask yourself, am I reacting or deciding? The pause interrupts manipulation, it neutralizes fear, and it gives you the clarity to respond on your terms, not theirs. The second step is questioning motives, yours and others. Before you say yes, before you say no, before you walk into or out of something, ask, why? Why am I doing this? Who benefits if I say yes? Who benefits if I say no? Am I acting from courage or from fear? Am I living by my values, or am I trying to please someone else? Most people never ask these questions. They live in blind compliance. But questioning motives turns on the lights. It exposes manipulation, reveals fear, and makes sure your choices are rooted in purpose, not pressure. The third step is testing your decisions against your values. Your values are your compass. Without them, you're just drifting, pulled in whatever direction the world wants to take you. So get clear. What are your non-negotiables? Freedom, integrity, growth, respect? Write them down. Then, whenever you face a decision, hold it up against those values. If the choice violates them, it's not your choice. It's a compromise. And compromise is how people lose themselves one decision at a time. Taking back control means drawing a line in the sand and saying, if it doesn't align with my values, it doesn't get my yes. The fourth step is small acts of discipline every day. Control isn't built in big moments, it's forged in small ones. Waking up when you said you would. Following through on the promise you made to yourself. Saying no when your gut screams no. Choosing the harder right instead of the easier wrong. Every disciplined act tells your brain, I am in charge here. And the more you practice, the stronger you get. Weakness is trained, so is strength. Which one are you rehearsing daily? The fifth step is setting boundaries and enforcing them without apology. Manipulators and cultural pressures lose power the moment you set a firm boundary. But here's the catch. Boundaries are worthless if you don't enforce them. Saying, I won't tolerate disrespect means nothing if you let someone cross that line again and again. Taking back control requires courage to act when your boundaries are tested. That means walking away, cutting ties, or saying no with clarity. Yes, people will push back. Yes, they'll accuse you of being selfish or difficult. That's not a sign you're wrong. It's a sign you're finally untouchable. The sixth step is rewriting your inner narrative. A lot of control is lost not because of what others say, but because of what you say to yourself. I'm not ready, I can't, what if I fail? Those are not facts. Those are fears disguised as thoughts. If you want control, you have to challenge them. Replace them with commands that reinforce strength. I can, I will, I decide. The voice in your head is either your prison guard or your bodyguard. Train it wisely. The seventh step is deciding slowly, executing quickly. When you face a big choice, don't rush it. Manipulators want speed. Fear thrives on panic. Slow it down. Think it through. But once you've made the decision, execute with speed. Don't drag your feet. Don't second guess. Decide, then move. The longer you linger, the easier it is for fear and outside voices to creep back in. Control means owning your choice, acting on it, and not looking back. And the last step is this: accept the cost of real decisions. Every powerful choice will cost you something: comfort, approval, certainty. But here's the tactical truth: indecision costs more. Indecision robs you of time, it robs you of opportunities, it robs you of self-respect. Taking back control means being willing to pay the price of choice, because the cost of letting others decide for you is far greater. Taking back control isn't glamorous. It's not a one-time event. It's daily training. It's the pause, the question, the boundary, the discipline, the action. It's choosing to live deliberately instead of drifting. And when you do, something powerful happens. Life stops happening to you and starts happening through you. You stop being a puppet and start being the one who pulls the strings. So ask yourself right now, where in your life are you reacting instead of deciding? Who are you letting hold the pen while your story's being written? And more importantly, when are you going to take it back? Because control is never given, it's taken. And if you want your life to belong to you, the time to take it back is now. Power doesn't come from talent. It doesn't come from luck. It doesn't even come from opportunity. Real power comes from decisions. The ability to choose with clarity, to act with conviction, and to own the outcome no matter what. The strongest people you'll ever meet aren't necessarily the smartest or the most gifted. They're the ones who decide. They move when others hesitate. They choose when others stall. They act when others are still stuck in their heads. Decision is power. Most people hand that power away without realizing it. They wait for permission, they wait for certainty, they wait for the right time. But waiting is not a strategy, it's surrender. While you hesitate, someone else decides. And the one who decides is the one who controls the direction of the game. Think about it. Leaders, innovators, warriors, they all share one trait. They don't let life decide for them. They decide for themselves, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's risky, even when it's terrifying. That's why they dominate. Here's the tactical truth. Indecision is a decision. Every time you fail to choose, you're still making a choice. The choice to stay the same, the choice to let others dictate your path, the choice to give up your power. And indecision is expensive. It costs you opportunities. It costs you respect. It costs you time you will never get back. You think you're avoiding risk, but in reality, you're bleeding power with every second you stall. Decisive people understand something most don't. The act of deciding itself builds strength. Every time you choose, you sharpen your focus. You build confidence. You reinforce the belief that I control me. Even if the outcome isn't perfect, you've trained your brain to move, not freeze. And movement creates momentum. Momentum creates opportunities. Opportunities create growth. That's how powerful lives are built. Not through waiting, but through decisive action repeated daily. But let's address the fear that keeps most people stuck. What if I make the wrong decision? Here's the hard truth. There are no wrong decisions. There are only decisions you learn from and decisions you benefit from. Every choice, even the painful ones, gives you data. It teaches you, sharpens you, strengthens you. The only truly wrong decision is the one you never made, because that leaves you with nothing but regret. Now, let's get practical. How do you build decisiveness as a skill? Start small. Don't overthink what to wear, what to eat, or how to spend the next hour. Choose quickly and move. Train your brain to act instead of stall. Then graduate to bigger decisions. Career moves, relationships, financial steps. Set a time limit for yourself. Gather the facts, weigh your options, and then decide. No dragging it out for weeks, no endless back and forth. Decide. The more you practice, the sharper your decision-making muscle becomes. Another tactical move. Adopt the mindset that you can handle the consequences of any decision you make, because you can. What paralyzes people isn't the choice itself, but the fear they won't survive the outcome. That fear is a lie. You've already survived every hardship life has thrown at you. You're still standing, so why doubt your ability to handle the results of your own choices? The truth is, handling the consequences, good or bad, is what makes you stronger. And here's something crucial. Decisive people command respect. People trust those who can choose and act. They may not always agree with you, but they will respect you. Why? Because indecision is weakness, and weakness is unattractive. When you hesitate, when you waffle, when you can't commit, you tell the world you don't trust yourself. And if you don't trust yourself, why should anyone else? But when you decide firmly, you project strength. And strength draws people in, inspires loyalty, and creates influence. That's power. Daily discipline is the backbone of decision power. You can't wake up one day and suddenly be decisive if you've spent years training yourself to procrastinate. You build it in the small choices, choosing the workout instead of the excuse, choosing the boundary instead of silence, choosing the hard truth instead of the easy lie. Every choice either adds to your strength or subtracts from it. So ask yourself daily, am I building power through my decisions, or am I giving it away? Now let's go deeper. Decision isn't just about action, it's about identity. Every time you decide, you shape who you are. Weak decisions create a weak identity. Strong decisions create a strong one. And the most powerful identity you can build is this: I am someone who decides. That alone separates you from most of the world. Because most people hesitate, most people stall, most people wait. You don't. You choose, you act, you move forward. That's who you are. Decision as power means you stop living reactively and start living proactively. You're not waiting for life to tell you who you are, you decide who you are. You're not waiting for the perfect moment, you create the moment. You're not asking, what if I fail? You're asking, what if I don't even try? That mindset shift changes everything. So here's your challenge. The next time you're standing in front of a choice, big or small, decide faster, decide with conviction, decide knowing you can handle whatever comes. And when doubt creeps in, remind yourself, hesitation is weakness, decision is strength. Weakness gives power away, decision takes it back. Because at the end of the day, the people who rise, the people who lead, the people who command their lives, they're not the ones who waited, they're the ones who decided. And if you want to dominate your life instead of being dominated by it, you need to understand this one truth. Decision isn't just power, decision is freedom. So let me ask you right now, who's really in control of your life? Is it you or is it fear? Is it you or is it the manipulations of others? Is it you or is it the scripts you've been following without question? Every single day you're faced with choices. Some are small, some are life-changing, but all of them add up to one truth. Either you're building power or you're giving it away. And if you've been drifting, reacting, obeying, today is the moment you take the pen back and start writing your own story. Don't just listen, audit your decisions. Question them. Ask yourself, why did I choose this? Was it mine or was it handed to me? Then commit, right here, right now, that from this moment forward, no one makes decisions for you but you. Because the strongest, most unshakable women are not the ones who never feel fear or pressure or doubt. They're the ones who decide anyway. And that's the power waiting in you, the power of choice. So I'll leave you with this. What decision are you going to make today that proves this life is yours?